Hey, welcome to exercise 7F. 7F is going to focus on this issue right here. The third declension is, let's see, a little more challenging in some ways, as I've said, than the first two declensions of nouns, right? The first two groups of nouns. First of all, first declension is mostly feminine nouns. So that's kind of gives you a lock on the first declension. Typically, 99 out of 100 nouns from the first declension are feminine. So you know that, and you can see, and also like there's different forms for these nominatives and accusatives, right? Ah versus and I versus as. Same thing roughly goes for second declension. We're going to have mostly masculine, but also a lot of neuter nouns from second declension, but still at least only two genders, let's say. But we also can see that there's a clear distinction between a subject or a nominative and a direct object or an accusative. That goes singular and plural. So you see servi and servos, right? And this is a subject and this is a direct object. But this fades with the third declension. What do you notice here? You see that nominative and accusative both look like the same thing. Oh no, what are we going to do? I mean, how are we supposed to tell a subject from a direct object? And that is what 7F tests you on. The page before it is what you're going to want to read carefully in addition to watching this video, because they give you 7 examples of how you do determine that clamores here is definitely a direct object and not a subject. Clamores, that ending, could be a nominative ending or it could be a accusative ending. But you can figure it out given the rest of the sentence. Like, for example, boys hear shouts. That's just common sense there. Even if you forgot that pueri is nominative, your common sense tells you that boys hear shouts and that shouts do not hear boys, right? So sometimes it's just common sense, but sometimes you need to go a little deeper than that. So that's what you're going to read there. And then we're going to just jump to 7F. And I'm going to give you 3 here. And I'm going to give you the harder ones. And you're going to do the easier ones. So I'm making your lives a little bit easier. Let's see. The ones that students typically got wrong last year would be, maybe 8. Yeah, let's do 7, 8, and 9. I think those would be the hardest ones. So I'm going to start with 7. Patres in via conspiciunt. Write that out. Again, I'm not doing long marks here. Patres in via conspiciunt. This a lot of kids got wrong last year because it just looks like, okay, that's the subject. I don't see any other noun, right? It's got to be the subject. But it is not. Think about it. The fathers catch sight of in the road. What do they catch sight of? They catch sight of nothing. There's nothing there. So students typically try to take that and jam it into some weird box where the fathers catch sight of the road. But there's an in here. You can't ignore that. So what do we do with this sentence? The answer is that you remember that a subject is not always in a sentence. The verb can contain the subject. This word means catch sight of, or it also can mean they catch sight of. So that's the answer to the question. The subject is in the verb here, and this is the direct object. Despite every temptation that you want to think otherwise, this is the direct object, not the subject. So now that makes life easier, and we say they catch sight of or see the fathers in the road. Okay? That problem is now solved. That's a big one last year. Number 8, patres pueros in via conspiciunt. Let's write it out real quick. Forgive me, I should be doing this before these videos start, but I just didn't. In via conspiciunt. Patres pueros in via conspiciunt. Yes, I have that right. Okay. So now, who sees who in the road, in the street, right? We got patres and we got pueros. Is it the fathers seeing the boys, or is it the boys seeing the fathers? We know that somebody is catching sight of someone in the street. But here, if your knowledge of cases has gotten solid, you're going to know that although this can be a direct object or a subject, as we said, third declension, it can go either way, there is only one option for this one here. This is definitely an accusative noun here, which makes this the very likely subject. We know now that someone catches sight of the boys in the street because it has to be a direct object. That ending tells you it is accusative. Can it be that they catch sight of the boys and the fathers in the street? Well, no, because there's no et, there's no and. So we're going to say that the fathers are doing the action of this verb now. So we're going to say the fathers catch sight of the boys in the road. Or on the road, maybe you could say too. In means in or on or into or onto, depending on the context. All right, number 9, patres soliciti clamores audiunt. Another big one last year, another problem sentence. Patres soliciti clamores audiunt. Okay, so we know we've got fathers. We don't know whether they're subject or direct object yet because it's third declension, it's pain. We know that there's somebody or something is nervous or worried or concerned. And then we have shouts. And then we have hear. They hear. Somebody hears. So we've got two possible subjects or direct objects here. Patres and clamores are both third declension. But going with the typical, well, no, we're going to use common sense for this, but we're also going to use the fact of the adjective following the noun that it modifies. No, that doesn't work because this could still be the direct object. So here we're just going to use primarily common sense. We're going to say, okay, somebody's hearing something, right? The question here is whether this word worried or anxious modifies the fathers or the shouts. After all, we could have the worried fathers hear the shouts, or we could have the fathers hear the worried shouts, right? But solicity is a nominative adjective here, and it's modifying, therefore, the subject. It must go with the fathers. So if it had an ending like solicitos, then we could say, okay, it's modifying the direct object because it would itself be accusative, but it is not. This is a nominative form. So last year I had answers like the fathers hear the worried boys in shouts or something. The worried boys shouts, like the people would make things up. But it's really simpler than that. The worried fathers hear the shouts. So get your knowledge of cases down solid so that you know that this is nominative and it applies to this noun, not this noun. Okay, that's all I'm going to give you, but that was the bulk of the hard ones, as if memory serves. Good luck out there now, children.